Leverich Racing fan, welcome to Leverich Racing Live 2. Hopefully we can continue this. Got Joe, the driver, on. We got Matt, the car chief, on, and yours truly, the Monday Morning Racer, special edition brought to you by Between the Slicks. Now, folks, we have got Dallas coming up this weekend. Technically, Enos. Yes, everybody, we know it's just like Commerce and Atlanta and Illinois with St. Louis. Yes, but you always go with the big city. You got to go with the big city. So, Leverich Racing will not be there, but yo, Matt, did you see the new Camping World paint on the track? What did you think?
Oh man, I thought it looked awesome. What did you think, Joe?
Oh man, I am so psyched to have Camping World on board, and let me tell you, I think the future is pretty doggone bright for NHRA drag racing right now.
It definitely is. I think the future for NHRA drag racing, therefore, I think the future of drag racing, because I really feel that drag racing rises and falls with how the NHRA does, that it is bright. I'm hoping, I do at least, though, hope we have a full RV class with nitromethane. I'm hoping for that. And it is Camping World. We need that. We need that.
That would be funny, man. I couldn't. Could you imagine? It would be the racing would be hysterical, but the between round maintenance would be hell.
It'd be terrible. It would be terrible.
To like get you into the beams and adjusting the idle, that'd be interesting too.
That's it.
It would be. It would be. Hopefully, the sewage has been dumped before the run. Hopefully, that would be critical. That would be critical. And folks, the next race for Leverich Racing is in Texas. It's not going to be Dallas, but it's going to be Houston. It's going to be Houston. Now, as far as I have looked, I haven't looked at the forecast here recently, but Dallas is supposed to be kind of warm this weekend, from what I can tell. What do you think, Matt, going into a Houston that's possibly going to be warm and traditionally humid for the Baytown area? What do you think?
We're okay with that. The more power your car makes, the harder it is to tune. And so, ours doesn't make nearly as much power as the big boys do. So it gives us a little bit of an advantage. That was obvious in Gainesville, where after round one, we were qualified fifth. And then after the second round qualifying, we were only bumped down to ninth. So, we were literally, I want to say it was only a couple hundredths from being in the top half of the field and actually telling Leah what lane, she needed to go in. We're excited. We're looking forward to it. And I think it's going to be a lot of fun. If the water grains are high, that's fine. It is hard to burn water. But after going to Gainesville and we've got a better grasp on that, we think we'll be all right.
Very cool, man. Very cool. Mike McCormick is watching. Hi, Lee, Joe, and Matt. Mike, hope you're doing well, man. Thank you for watching. Speaking of Texas, Joe, you posted on your Facebook about an addition along with yourself and on the car. Tell us a little bit about some type of barbecue sauce.
Yeah, so I alluded to that a little bit in our call last week, and I'm really excited to have the Best of Texas barbecue sauce, John Hale's company, on board for the Houston race. So should be really cool. We've got a couple of neat features coming up. My wife and I filmed this past weekend a little bit of Best of Texas recipe that we have for baby back ribs. So you guys, that'll be shared pretty soon, probably tomorrow or Friday. So you can look for that on the Top Fuel, the Joe Morrison Top Fuel driver page, and I'm going to share it on my personal page, and hopefully, I think we'll be sharing that on the Leverich page too. And so that was a fun thing to do. And boy, I'll tell you, it's since John Hale was obviously drove for Jim Dunn's big show car, but John's been racing nostalgia nitro funny cars for years, and that's where I met him first. So yeah, it was kind of a no-brainer. We've been using in the Morrison house here. We've been using Best of Texas sauce for 4 or 5 years now. So it's a perfect fit. I love the product and can't wait, because what we're going to do Saturday in the pits is we're going to be feeding the Leverich team with crock pot pulled pork with Best of Texas sauce, and we're going to be doing barbecue chicken for lunch on Sunday. So the whole team will get to share in that sweet, smoky goodness of that Best of Texas barbecue sauce. And I'm grateful to John for his support of the team. And listen, every little bit helps. And John's a good guy, and it's a great company, and we've got a a great win-win situation set up where it helps the team. And I know we've already generated some orders of barbecue sauce for him. So that's what it's all about, man. It's what we want for our sponsors. We want them to win in business. And then, in turn, we want to go ahead and have some success on the track. So yeah, it's a good deal, man.
Hey, the sauce is the boss. You got to have the sauce. I mean, I know it's Texas, and the whole dry rub thing is important. I get it. But sauce matters, and the Best of Texas barbecue sauce. Very cool to have them along with you and Leverich Racing, and I'm sure there's going to be a great outing. And man, Matt, are you prepared to eat barbecue all weekend?
I'm always prepared to eat barbecue, man. I cannot wait to stuff my face while working and eating. And when Joe said that he's going to be cooking for us, and I was just like, man, thank God. I can't wait to get some good food and some good barbecue sauce. I'm excited for that.
Awesome. We got one commenter, Scott. Does Best of Texas have a mustard sauce? Do they have a mustard base? Do you know, Joe?
No, they just have the one that's the darker molasses. Okay. I don't want to say it's a molasses base, but no, it's they ought to give it a try though, because even though that's a different style with a mustard base, it's delicious. But yeah, Tim's got it posted right there, smoky and sweet with a touch of spice, and that's exactly what it is. So. Good stuff, man.
Awesome. Now, I know we're talking about sauce, but across the country, barbecue is different in the particular regions. I'm here in the Carolinas, definitely pulled pork. This particular area of North Carolina I am in, above Durham, it's a vinegar-based type of pulled pork. You go back in the home of the South Carolina, where I'm from, the upstate of South Carolina, that mustard base does definitely come in with the pulled pork. You've got Kansas City style, Texas dry rub, Tennessee. They doing something up there with chicken. I don't know what they're doing, but they're doing it up there. Guys, what do you prefer when it comes to barbecue? Yes, I know Best of Texas barbecue sauce needs to be on it, but what's the best barbecue in your minds? Tim says Memphis for the win. That's a good choice, man. I definitely like me some chicken and waffles from Mama Sue's down there on Bill Street. Definitely love that. So, guys, yeah, best barbecue.
I'll go first. I do prefer a little bit of a vinegar tang to mine. I like it when I'm eating it. I kind of feel it, back here. I like that. I really enjoyed that. In fact, I just had some this past weekend that a buddy of mine does, and it was fabulous. And so that's why I'm like, man, I get to have barbecue, a couple times in 1 month. I'm excited. I can't wait.
I am a firm believer that variety is the spice of life, man. And I love to actually kind of rotate through and have a little bit of this the one time. I love the Memphis stuff. I love the Kansas City stuff. I do love the Texas dry rub with the Best of Texas on it, sauce on it. But, oh goodness, I'm trying to remember the name of the barbecue place, and I'm sure, and Tim he's listening. He'll know, because we went to this barbecue place together, not too far from Z-Max Dragway. There's just a killer barbecue place. We walk in there, and it was a couple of different teams there. I know we ran into Mike Lewis from Schumacher's and a couple of other guys. And maybe Tim will put it in the comments. I can't remember the name of it. It wasn't too far from Z-Max. But, man, it's like you walk in, and it was almost like a cafeteria. But, man, the food was outrageous. It was absolutely amazing. Absolutely amazing.
Well, so. Tim chimes in, not with the restaurant yet. Maybe he will, but he says definitely brisket, Texas. And nobody does brisket better than in Texas. I prefer Angelo's in Fort Worth, Texas. You got to get to Angelo's. Highly recommend it. Family's been going there for years. Ribs, Memphis dry rub. I have not had Memphis dry rub. I've had the Kansas City. But I will say this, the best ribs I have ever had, and I'm not a rib guy, actually, Stanton, Virginia. There's this restaurant in an old flour mill. Oh, yes. And pulled pork in North Carolina. Sam says, no barbecue sauce.
You're missing out, Sam.
It depends, to each their own, Sam. Yep. Thank you for watching. Look, Sam, please put in the comments how people can, follow you and your podcast. But nonetheless, it depends. I don't think barbecue is like steak. If you need steak sauce, something's wrong. Okay, no, and unless you're at Waffle House and it's a leather ribeye, fine. But no, you're not supposed to have steak sauce with a steak. But barbecue's different. Barbecue's different.
Yeah, I like some with and some without. And heck, when we were down at the Gator Nationals, our first dinner was we went to Sonny's around the corner from the track. So. And who'd we see there? We ran into Terry Haddock there, and Dwayne Shields was there that night. So
Terry Haddock at a Sonny's. I'm not shocked. Shocked. It seems like it fits. Tim does chime in. He says, sadly, though, I was not the designated driver that night. I don't recall.
That's true. I was the designated driver that night, actually, and I don't remember either. Yeah, I was driving. Oh, yeah.
Oh, man.
It was a good time, though.
It must have been. He wasn't the designated driver, and he can't remember. And the barbecue must have been so intoxicating you don't even remember. I've had that experience. No alcohol, but the food was so good. Yes, definitely. So, folks, go get you some barbecue now. I might do that after I leave here after talking about barbecue. And sadly, I have no Best of Texas barbecue sauce. I'll have to get me some. I'll have to order
a piece
some.
of cake, actually. All you have to do is go to bestoftexasbbqsauce.com. And there's a whole button right there that says order now. And you can buy them in 2-packs. You can buy them in 6-packs or cases or whatever you want. I know I've got a case that's arriving on Thursday because when Jen and I did these ribs, we used up the last of the sauce. And every time I would go to Bakersfield, I would come home with like a dozen jars of it. So, and I haven't raced in Bakersfield since 2018. So and I ran out.
Yeah.
So we got more coming.
Hey, speaking of Bakersfield, Joe, I was watching some YouTube videos. I'm a YouTuber and I do watch YouTube. I've got to ask, what is out there in Bakersfield? The last time I was in Bakersfield, I was on the truck with my dad. I come off the mountain and the city is all lit up. I'm like, oh, this looks like a nice place. I wake up the next day. I'm like, what hole of a town are we in? And I look at the track and it looks like there is nothing out there but the track. So what's Bakersfield like with it in the racing scene out there?
So it to me, Bakersfield is like Mecca because the March meet, while not an NHRA race, has been going on. I mean, decades, right? When would that? Oh gosh, now I'm going to need help because I'm not a stat guy and I don't remember the year of the first March meet. 59, 60, 61. I mean, the heritage there and the racing that's gone on at that track is just simply legendary. And for me, being a big time, love nostalgia racing. Just as much as I love the Big Show, honestly. And so for me, having the privilege of being able to 3 different times drive a fuel altered in Bakersfield at the California Hot Rod Reunion, to me, there's nothing better. One of my bucket list items, truthfully, a bucket list item for me, I want to drive a Nitro Nostalgia funny car at the March meet, and I want to drive a front engine top fuel car at the March meet. So, and anything with nitro in the tank, but to be able to go out and run events like that. And again, I got my top alcohol license with Jerry Darian in Bakersfield at Famoso Auto Club Raceway. So it's a special track to me for a lot of reasons. Being a nostalgia fan, twice now, I've had the privilege of match racing the Winged Express at the California Hot Rod Reunion in the fuel altered class. And so for me, Bakersfield has a lot of great memories, and I have one not so great memory of crashing there in 2015. But even still, I mean, hey, look, it was a learning experience too. But what's around Bakersfield? Oil wells and oranges. And I think what are the nuts they grow out there? But that's it, man. There's nothing around that track. It's just out in the middle of nowhere.
I would imagine probably almonds or pistachios. I would imagine.
Probably.
Yeah. Matter of fact, my dad, we picked up a load of grapes out there. It was out there's a little town above called Delano or Delino or something like that, and that's where we picked up. Got grapes, hauling back. Tim, says Fuel and Gas Championships at Bakersfield started in 59, and I just checked 59. Matt was going to chime in 59. Man, that's a good long time. And March meet is on my list. It just never seems to fall, the same time. And then 2020 has been crazy. So March meet is definitely on my list as well. Chris chimes in and says, I love the March meet. It's a fun event. He does mention that he couldn't catch it a couple years ago due to brain surgery. Glad you're doing better, Chris. Glad to hear that. So, yeah, 1959.
Yeah,
Matt,
I
go
think
ahead.
I think it was advertised as the Smokers Club was like the sanction. I think that was the sanctioning
Yep.
of it, and they were advertising it as East versus West. If I know my history correctly.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, and man, I miss in drag. You still find it on the lower levels, but like I even still today wish the NHRA would have this north, south, east, west thing going on. And, maybe not so far as splitting up and having an East and West Coast and overall champion. That can get pretty confusing. But I really wish the NHRA would emphasize, and I think they've got to do it here in the future very soon, emphasize the regional cars, like a Paul Weiss and the New Englander, or the Paul Richards team coming out of Florida, and Maroney's out there in the West, and the Leveriches coming out of Michigan, and running like obviously outside of the Midwest, but definitely the races in the Midwest. I think the NHRA has got to put an emphasis on these type of teams. What do you think, Matt? You think it's got to happen?
Yeah, it should happen. It needs to happen. What makes it tough is your big three or your big four are all based right out of Brownsburg, Indiana. But then you have throughout the country all the little teams. I mean, I think of Salinas out of San Jose, and Haddock's out of Texas, and even Palmer's out of Oklahoma. And then we're out of Michigan, and even got a couple of guys out of Canada, Noakes and Peyton. That would be cool though if they had some regional stuff. How they're gonna do it, that's way above my pay grade. But that'd be fun. That would make things a lot more interesting. And sometimes fans like interesting. Who knows? It's worth a shot.
Right. I don't know. I wouldn't mind, and fans chime in, and Joe and you, Matt, y'all chime in. I wouldn't mind if the actual national tour went back to 18 races. Let's say 18 races. And then there were basically regional match races that teams could participate in. What are some things like that you might want to think the NHRA does? Or is it like, we were at 24. We don't need to go away from 24. It takes away from the championship run. What do you think, Joe?
Interesting thought. I think there was more emphasis on the regions in the past because, look, back in the day, there were so many fuel cars, and you had – divisional races had fuel cars, right? So so you had your best of the best in your each NHRA division, and then from there, so I think that's why there was more of an emphasis on where you were from. Of course, back in the day, right, Southern California was the place for nitro, and although there were a whole bunch of East Coast cars that maybe. And cars across the center of the country that maybe didn't get the respect that they deserved. Some of them did. Don't know that we could ever turn back the clock like that. Having fuel cars at divisional races, I don't know that ever would happen. I would love to see more match racing, and match racing with the pro cars kind of went away because you don't have enough time with 24 races. So, yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. If that was going to happen, it would have to happen where there were less national events. Back in the day, that's how guys made a living, was going to match races, because there were only 8 national events in the I guess in the 70s. Now I have to remember exactly what it was because I was just a little kid then. But truthfully, look, I even remember, in the 80s, there, you had a dozen, 14 national events, and that was it. So it was a whole lot easier to do match racing at that point. And the cost of what we're doing was a whole lot less back then. So a lot of factors, as the cars have progressed technically, it's just harder and harder to to be able to run them locally, because the costs of running the car are so much that trying to get a local track to pay for it gets a little tough. Now, I will say that the Northern National is at US 131 Dragway, and I've driven the Frantic Ford out there for Rocky Perone, and Rocky was driving the Super Camaro. Man, you would have thought I was John Force at that place. And they had Big Show Top Fuel cars, and it was a great match race. And I don't know if Bobby Lagana was the one running that for the Top Fuel cars, or whether that was all Steve Tomosic. I'm not sure, but I will say they had 6 Big Show Top Fuel cars, plus they had a great funny car show. It's a great race. So can it be done? Yeah. And they had to have had 20,000 fans there. Had to. I mean, the place was packed, and US 131's not exactly a small grandstands, So I don't know. That's my 2 cents. I again, like Matt said, it's above my pay grade too. I think it's an interesting idea, but the only way you could get match racing happening is if we pulled back on the number of national events. I don't know that takes away from a championship, because you're going to tell me that the 1976 champion is less of a champion than the champion from last year, or 11 events the champion will have this year. You got a set number of races. The person with the most points and or the best way to navigate through the regular season and then the countdown is the champion. I mean, that's just what it is. So, that's my 2 cents.
Yeah, I have to agree that I don't think whatever you set the number at far as champion, whether it's 32 or 12, whatever, you're still the champion. You can't take away from the guys of the past. For example, the last time we had 11 races in a national championship run, it was 1981, if I remember correctly. There was 11 national events. But it was, as you mentioned, it was not always that case. We get the idea of the big 4 because there was basically just 4. And everybody got together those 4 times, and the rest of the time they were running their regional races. Very similar to what A-Fuel and Alcohol Funny Car does today. That's what the pros did way back when as well. So, I think it would be cool. Step back, 18 events, rotate some tracks year after year, and give some room for some match racing, such as Corey mentions the Night of Fire at Norwalk, which is a awesome event. Awesome event. I mean, they burned down their whole billboard. That is just spectacular. I think Tim here puts together a good idea. 18-point earning national events plus 2 4-wide invitationals. I think that's an interesting concept. Matt,
I'd like to see an all-star race, funny car versus Top Fuel again back at Bristol. How about that? That'd be fun.
Yes.
That'd be cool.
Yes. And, on that, Joe, I'm hoping, because Bristol right now is not on the list, that's what happens. I hope Camping World pulls some strings and enough people talk about it. And, we get Funny Car versus Top Fuel once again at Bristol. And then, yes, still have Pro Stock there, still have Pro Stock Motorcycle, and let's have $1 million purse total. $250,000 to the winner of whoever beats beats in Top Fuel Funny Car. $250,000 to Pro Stock Motorcycle. $250,000 to Pro Stock. I'd love to. I think that'd be awesome. Somebody put the money up. Somebody. I want to see it, because back in the day with Winston. I know we're probably not supposed to say that, but with Winston, you did have that the people that were finished 8th in points from the previous year would run an all-star race. And it happened at Rockingham, and I think it even happened at Atlanta one year, maybe a few other tracks, but I definitely remember Rockingham and Atlanta. And it was popular. It was successful. I don't know why under the Mellow Yellow, the Powerade, the Coca-Cola era, I don't know why we didn't have anything like that.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, as Brandon says, it was the No Bull Showdown. Yes, sir, it was the No Bull Showdown. Look, smoking, I can't recommend it for you, but yet that marketing department from RJ Reynolds had it going on with special events. I mean, just all across the board in motorsports. So, Marcus, he's definitely into the motorsports. Hopefully, we see some of that come back from drag racing, because drag racing is exciting, but there's nothing wrong with having these special events. And I think diversity is key. And I don't want it to go all 4-wide. I'm fine with a couple of 4-wides or one 4-wide, but every new drag strip doesn't need to be 4-wide capable. I mean, just change up the type of racing to some degree. I mean, I'd love to see it. Love to see it. Matt, your thoughts on all of the lessen the schedule? Would it be less of a championship? What would you like to see from a crew guy being the car chief? At least it coming home in one piece, right?
Well, absolutely. Yeah. No carnage. I think it would be okay to go with a smaller schedule. I think you can make that work and then have more match races. But as Joe alluded to have a good match race, you still have to put forth the money. As Corey mentioned, the Night Under Fire, it's the first thing I thought of is, man, Bill Bader puts on a huge event and has 6 or 8 big time fuel cars there, and they've got 30, 35, 40,000 people in that place. It's packed to the gills. It's completely sold out. He has an unbelievable lineup of nonstop stuff that the fans want, and the fans obviously come. And it's not an NHRA national event. It's not even a regional or divisional. It's just a special event. And if he can make a special event work, well, is he the only one? Can some other people do it? And I know NHRA has a rule out there somewhere about match races. You can only do so many with the new rules. So I think you can only go test so often. I'm not even sure we could even match race right now if we're even allowed to. I can't remember that one, but it would be fun to do that. In fact, Leverich Racing, we typically go match racing twice a year in Canada. We couldn't do that this year, but we plan on doing it next year if they'll have it. And it would be fun for people to go to areas and tracks where they don't have that stuff, even if it's 8th mile. Go to tracks where people are not even close to anything top fuel, and we can go out there and just bring 4 or 8 top fuel anything. I don't care if it's a mix of funny car and dragster, and let's go out there. And it doesn't need to be the Don Schumacher Racing and JFR Racing. Let some of the lower budget teams go, because we can go with a budget, for an entire weekend of what those big teams spend in one run, and we can bring the fans a really cool show. And they're not going to really know the difference between a 370 and a 390. They're not really going to care as long as you're just loud and you're having fun. And I do think NHRA should kind of take the handcuffs off us for that and let us go do that. But with the whole COVID thing, it'd probably be difficult for people to even come up with the money to say, hey, I've got X amount of dollars. Can I get 4 fuel cars to come? And that, someone's got to put forth that money. Having a 16 or 18 race schedule, I think, would free that up. But then also when you've got sponsors out there saying, hey, we're willing to give NHRA money to have a race here and a race there, and all of a sudden, boom, before you know it, you've got a 22 or 24 race schedule. Well, crap, NHRA can't say no to that money, and they've got to keep doing what they're doing. So I know it's a long answer for a short question.
No, man, no, fine. It's a good one. I definitely think there's some room. There's some room there. Interesting, you mentioned 8th mile. I definitely would love to see some nitro at PDRA events, and maybe not even as a competitive situation, but, if you just had like the funny car versus top fueler match race in between the great drag racing that the PDRA has, I think if the NHRA is smart and they're like, use that as an ambassador brand at other sanctioning events, I think that'd be great. Like, all right, we're here. We love what the PDRA is doing, but if you want to see more of these cars, check out our event that's 3 hours down the road in 2 months. I think if events work together, and I think drag racing can win overall. And I think it's good for drag racing when they do that. But when we build the walls, I think it makes it far more challenging. And there's things that the NHRA can learn from other sanctioning bodies and vice versa. Like, man, what Chris Graves is doing with Funny Car Chaos, that is just like phenomenal. He has figured something out where you have old and I mean, even current big show cars match up with nostalgia cars and this A-B field. And I mean, it's just amazing. It's very cool how that series has taken drag racing fans by storm, and it's got the popularity that it does. So, yeah, definitely.
Part of that is the 8th mile racing. That's the great equalizer. That's why you can put an alcohol car versus a fuel car, because at that point, 8th mile, it's not that different. I mean, the alcohol car may have a little more on the bottom end, depending on what happens. Whereas the fuel car, you got to wait for the clutch to start to lock up and things to really move. But yeah, it's an interesting concept. It really is. A field and B field, because there are some cars that are not going to be running three. Well, you run 3 6s or 3 7s to the 8th on those tracks, and you're really doing something. Now, again, the big show cars are there's a couple guys that have brought them out there, but that's a whole different animal, and maybe the track prep is the great equalizer on that and that aspect of things. But I mean, look, if we ran a 3/6 8th mile with top fuel car, we'd be pissed because it's terrible. So, we're off by a mile with that, so, but still, hey man, Funny Car Chaos is awesome. And hey man, I'd love to race one of those at some point.
Yeah. I want to go and film one. I haven't been, it's right now it's definitely Midwest. And I heard in a podcast that Chris is thinking about doing some things beyond the Midwest, kind of exhibition races. But I mean, they got so many different type of cars coming out, and they have true nostalgia cars, and yet then they also have the modern version of nostalgia coming out, and then the big I mean, and you get the Gasser program a lot of times is along with them, so it's a stellar show, definitely a stellar show. Well, with this show, we're going to be winding down. The last thing I want to bring up to you fellow drag race fans and being steeped in the NHRA as a driver, car chief is, well, there is some controversy going into the last 2 races with Pro Stock. Pro Stock had the incident of unsafe conditions at St. Louis. They stopped running mid-second round. So I've got to ask, guys, if something like that happened in fuel, unsafe conditions, they called it and said, we're going to run this at a later date, but you already started round 2. What do you think should have occurred? Is it redo, as a lot of drivers are calling for, or would you just say pick it up right where you left off? Everybody was on the same track. Joe, what do you think as a driver?
That's a hard call to make, because I think, yeah. You think, Matt? Yeah, redo?
Matt, you there?
Kind of losing you guys.
Uh-oh. You there, Matt? Say it again.
Am I here? Can you hear me?
Joe, you take it.
I got it. I'll take over. So hard, it's, as a driver, if I was one of those guys that had won rounds, hard to say. If I won the round because my opponent got out of shape and had to push the clutch in, in a Pro Stock car, obviously you're not pushing the clutch in a fuel car at that point. But it's everybody had the same conditions to deal with. So it would be hard to say redo, but at the same time, look, if they only got halfway through a particular round, maybe you start round 2 over and take it from there and rerun the races that were run in round 2. But I don't know. It's such a hard call to make, and this is why I have no desire to ever run a sanctioning body or to ever run a drag strip. Both jobs are thankless, and at the end of the day, someone's always going to be pissed off at you. So if this happened in fuel, I don't know. I might lean toward asking for a restart, quite honestly. Although, like I said, for the folks who won those rounds, I think they're going to be less inclined to say that, unless their cars are running so doggone good that they don't care. But the racing is pretty tight across the board in NHRA. I mean, look, we got a good product happening right now on the racetrack. And so tight racing, anything can happen. We'll see. I know that the issue is there really is no framework or NHRA doesn't have a way of dealing with a problem like this. And I guess that's part of the frustration. Look, at the end of the day, it's NHRA's sandbox, and they're going to make the best decision they can. They get slammed a lot for making, what people think are bad decisions. And hey, look, maybe some of them are, maybe some of them aren't. But unless you're in that position running the sanctioning body and have so many different stakeholders that you got to keep happy, and a lot of them are behind the scenes that you don't really see, with regard to sponsors and things of that nature, it's a tough call to make, and I'm glad it's not my job. How's that for an answer?
He's glad he's out. Look, it's tough. It's tough to make this decision, and I definitely think this is one of those incidences where the NHRA, no matter what they do, it's probably not the right call to somebody. A lot of people are out there. Well, what about Kenny Delco? He wrecked, and you're going to rerun a race that he wrecked in that means nothing. I mean, I get that argument. I'm not sure what Kenny's thoughts personally is on it, because a lot of people don't know Kenny was actually back in a car Monday because the Val Smelin car is under his umbrella, and he actually was making test runs the very next day. So he's already been back in a car, but what he would feel on it, don't know. Matt, do we got you back? No.
I feel like it's going in and out. Can you at least hear me okay?
I can hear you, yes.
Okay, now I'm just going to keep talking. I think they should start it over. That's just me. I feel like they should completely start the whole race over when you've got guys pulling the chutes at 900 feet, 850 feet, 800 feet, pushing the clutch and the pull the chutes just to hopefully save their car. I feel like that's, NHRA should just start over, give them a restart. I think back of, in Top Fuel, I don't remember which race it was, but I remember I can just think of, I'm picturing Bob Vandergriff literally leaving his car on the track, and by the way, he got fined $10,000 for that. They shouldn't have ran those cars, and they made him, and I think it was him and Steve Torrance, and it was an absolute pedal fest the whole way down. And Bob Vandergriff got so mad he stopped his car on the track, got out, and walked away and left his car, and gave I can't remember who the intro guy was. It's on the tip of my tongue, but gave him an earful, and it wasn't a safe track, and they probably should have ran that one over too. That wasn't the best thing to do, and you want to give the paying fans a good race. And, sometimes it's hard to admit when I'm wrong, but when I'm wrong, I would say, okay, I'm wrong. I messed up. Let's do this over again. Let's make this right for the drivers. Because I have a feeling if you were to pull the drivers that won, I mean, maybe they would all say, no, I'm good. But I kind of feel like a lot of them are really good gentlemen and they're really good sports. And they would say, no, let's run it again. Let's do this right with the right kind of conditions. That's just my take on it. I could be wrong, but I would say do it again. Even if I would have won a round, I would still say, let's run it again. Let's make this right.
Yeah. And that does seem to be the consensus here. And I almost feel like this is something where a class does need to come together and make a decision and say, we as Pro Stock or we as Fuel, Nitro, whatever, we have decided, I think it is something for the class to heavily weigh in on. Not that they need to make the decisions for everything. Sure, there's a reason for the body, but I definitely think it's a point for the class to weigh in on. Well, guys, let me close with this to both of you. Brandon asks, let me condense this. Joe, how do you feel about doing the throttle wax for the fans? Obviously Leverich two for the fans, big crowd pleasers. And he says, look, 15 years ago, things are different to what they are now. And is there any benefit? Is there anything that takes away? Why does the Leverich team do the throttle whack? And is there a potential of losing any advantage by doing it?
So I'll say a few things about this, and then Matt can talk about it too. All right. So do I love it? Hell yeah. It's a lot of fun. And, as a fan as well as a driver, right? I mean, I love this stuff. There's a lot of drivers that won't go to the races if they're not driving. I'm not one of them. I'll go and watch a drag race. I love it. I'd be there every day if I could. So I love the throttle wax, and doing it for the fans is great. Here's the thing, right? You can make a legitimate argument that it could be less consistent by doing the throttle wax. But when we whack the throttle, we know how much wear is going to come off of that clutch, those clutch discs, right? 5-disc clutch we're running. So we know how much wear is going to happen during each whack. So if we whack it once, we know how much wear is going to happen. We whack it twice, we know how much those clutch discs are going to wear. And we put the feeler gauge back, or Todd, our clutch guy, resets the clutch to check the air gap after we warm the car up. So you could say that depending, with some other teams, if they're grinding clutch and between rounds, you could make the argument that if when you adjust the clutch hat, that it isn't 100% square after you whack the throttle. I don't know that can definitely be the case or definitely not be the case. So there's a lot of different technical arguments you could make for against whacking the throttle, or there are also technical arguments you could make that it doesn't make that much of a difference, so you're not necessarily losing a competitive advantage. For us, look, if we were out there running for the national record, do I know that we would still be doing throttle wax? I don't know that. I would have to ask some I would ask my friend Rob Flynn. He's a brilliant guy, and he's been around a long time and seen a lot of different things, and I'm sure he could explain it better. Because truthfully, you need a veteran crew chief that's seen both sides of things to be able to make that argument. But I would still want to do it for the fans. So look, if this wasn't Leverich racing, if this was Morrison racing, I would still be doing it. So I'm glad that Gary wants to do it, and I'm glad that to be with this team that really cares about the fans and really cares about what kind of a show we put on, and we want to be competitive. So long answer. Matt, I would love for you to chime in a little bit on there. I like Brian's comment. Todd tell me he's got no clue what he's doing.
Right.
Don't let him fool you.
And look, and folks, we'll have Todd on one day. We will. The clutch guy. He's a great character, definitely. I thoroughly enjoyed the little bit of time I got to spend with Todd, and we'll let him tell us later the nickname on the team. Matt, your thoughts and why the throttle whack?
Well, first, Brian, for those who don't know, Brian is the bottom end guy. So you got the bottom end guy telling the clutch guy he has no idea what he's doing. So that's always good. That's always fun. Obviously, we have a lot of fun at Leverich Racing. Fun. That's for you, David Bauer. So we do it not from a performance advantage whatsoever. I mean, in fact, we can not do it. Our clutch disc, the way, we have a guy that grinds them for us, and it's not necessary. The disc and the disc are exactly where we need them. We do it for the fans, and we do it for us because we're fans too. Like Joe said, if there's a race close to me and we're not racing the car, I'll go just to watch. We want to have fun. So if we, the crew, want to have fun and we want the fans to have fun, then let's do what the fans want. I will go ahead and say this announcement right here, right now. You guys have heard it here first, that Leverich Racing in Houston, we will still do a double whack, but come Sunday, for every round win, we will whack it one additional time.
Oh, yes! Yes!
So watch us go to the final, because then, holy crap, man, we won't even have a clutch come to the final round. But who cares? We will do it. I did get Gary's approval on that. We just got Gary's approval, so we're good. So yeah, every round we go, we'll give it one extra whack, and what the crap? Why not? Let's just go. But yes, it's for the fans. as Joe said, we know how to gap it tight. So we gap it tight, and we know with each whack how much space it's going to add. Our gap will get bigger, and then Todd checks it, and it's usually close enough. Usually Todd checks it and goes, it's about this, and we're like, yeah, it's close enough. Send it. Let's go. The bigger teams, they want it to be perfect. They want exactly the same measurement. They want the exact same gap every single time. We get that. That's fine. That's why they don't do it. Brian, your poor bottom end. I don't know how to take that, but okay. I feel sorry for your bottom end. I love Brian. I love Brian. I love Todd. I love our crew guys. Looking forward to seeing them.
Hey, we'll have Brian on the show eventually too, and I won't even have to ask but one question.
God, can you imagine? Oh God, Brian will talk your ear off the whole show. Like, he'll be 30 minutes in and go, "What was the question?" I mean, it's like total John Force moment. But can you imagine a show where you have Brian and Todd on the same show? Oh, holy crap, that would be.
It's going to happen. It's going to happen.
Crap, it would be a disaster. But
it would be absolutely entertainment. Oh man, it would be awesome.
Hey, maybe
he'll be awesome.
Maybe that's the Christmas special, and we all dress in ugly Christmas sweaters, and we have Todd and Brian on.
Have all these boxes on the screen. It'd be like the Brady Bunch show.
Yes.
Where we're just all around, with Lee, you in the middle, and we're all kind of looking at you.
Welcome to the Leverich Bunch.
There we go.
The Leverich Bunch.
Oh my gosh, Mickey and Dina. Holy crap, that'd be such an awful show. That'd be so cool.
That'd be great. That'd be great.
Oh, train wreck.
Yeah, bring your own cocktails and let her rip, man.
There we go. There we go.
Before we forget, so just make sure the fans pay attention on Saturday for qualifying, because the crew, we have some surprises for them when we're running the car. Pay close attention to we're gonna make it interesting, and it's gonna be fun, and that's all I'm not sure what else I could say without giving anything away, but you will laugh, you might cry, and oh man, it's gonna be a blast. It's gonna be a very interesting Q1 for our team. Just please, for the love of God, tune in and watch it. You will not be disappointed. I'm sure it's going to make some highlight reel somewhere.
Man, I wish I did not have my schedule conflict issue. Man, I wish I didn't. But I'm looking forward to y'all having fun and the NHRA coming back to the pit and talking to y'all.
Oh
yeah. It's
going
to happen. Yeah.
They're gonna say, "Who's the car chief?" Not me.
No.
Nope, not me. Nope. I just do cylinder head. Nope.
Yep.
That's right.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's right. Well, Joe, Matt, look, thank you for hopping on with myself, the Monday Morning Racer, here for Leverich Racing Live 2. And folks, thank you for watching. And we will definitely do this again with a whole cast of characters. I hope to run through them and everybody get to know the faces of Leverich. So, folks, thank you for watching. Matt, thank you. Joe, thank you. Signing off.